Good. Yeah.
Sorry,
No, you go.
well,
You.
last season's student ticket sales were up 70%. Do
Yeah.
you still see the excitement with fans this year?
I do, just in a variety of different ways. I would say as a head coach, the one thing I've learned is to kind of pick up on little things that maybe people don't see in front of them. Everybody kind of in DIA focuses on their job, right? So I got that information from the ticket office. But just in our community, people that come in our building and talk about the buzz from our players. We had a couple staff changes that we were in support staff, dietitian. Obviously, I announced Sean Snyder yesterday, so I had some people through the building, and they just talk about the feel and the buzz in that Smith Center, and I think that's real. So the student ticket sales up 70% from where we were when we started. I think it's a big deal.
How did this go down with Sean and the team
Yeah,
members?
great question. So, um, obviously Ben gave you guys an update yesterday, so it's really been a tough situation to work through, right? Like last spring, we weren't quite sure if he'd be with us in the fall, and then really as spring developed, we knew that at some point he was not going to be with us for the fall, and he and I sat down and had a conversation, and really took us to the decision that we would kind of, in reality, kind of put him on the shelf as a football coach. Now he can actually still recruit for us. He can make phone calls, do things. There's certain rules that are in place, so he's still a full active recruiter, but the NCAA allows me to replace him on the field. So Sean really becomes one of my 10 assistant coaches. He'll coordinate our special teams and run and with our specialists. But Sean and I actually started at the University of Iowa together. I met him in the Slater dormitory. He left after a couple years and went with his dad at Kansas State. And then when I went to Kansas State, he was there as a coach. And obviously, we had a relationship already. And then really just stayed close with him. Coach Snyder and I are very close, his father. And when I first took the job, I actually considered him, but he was at USC. And then the way the cookie crumbled and the way it kind of played out, I reached out to him and afforded this opportunity. And the impact he's had on our specialists has been very positive. One of the NCAA rules allowed us to work on the field with our guys this year, one-on-one. And so he's already gotten some one-on-one work with it, which has never been able to be done in college football. So the timing of it, as bad as it is timing for Coach Miller and what he's going through, is very positive as of late. And then the addition of Sean has been awesome.
How does the tight end room affect that move?
Yeah, great question. So, again, sometimes you go through things you don't even realize how beneficial things are until they're kind of unmasked. And literally every offensive coach I hired has coached the tight ends in their career, right? So Barry Lundy coached the tight ends for me for 5 years. Corey Patterson coached tight ends before I came here. George McDonald coached tight ends at Stanford, and then Bart Miller coached tight ends at Air Force. So all four of those guys are kind of combining into that room. And Barry and I will work together to make sure that daily needs are met. And then also two of my GAs, one of them will be there from a pure functional standpoint with them every day in the meeting room, on the field. And then we've hired some analysts that can kind of help coach coaches. They can't be on the field, but Courtney Messingham is a guy that I had added from K-State staff who's been around a lot of really good football, national championship guy that has been a huge asset to our team. And then for me personally, I've always really liked tight ends, right? And so it allowed me to get my hands dirty with them a little bit as well.
What kind of improvements in the passing game have you seen under Barry Lundy?
Just overall, I think the passing game, the way that he distributes the ball, the way we line up, the way we move, obviously the use of tempo has got our kids very excited. The passing game depends a lot on quarterback play, right? And to have Art returning from a year ago, and then also the addition of Tommy. We also, Kirkland Michel is a transfer come in, Ryan Johnson, obviously Samari Collier, and then also Donovan Leary's been an impressive guy. So I think the passing game is going to be a lot about all quarterback play.
Coach,
Going
when
back
you
to
were
Wisconsin,
going through
you're
the
going back.
process of being hired, what did you tell Josh Whitman and administration that you needed to be successful at Illinois, whether that be administratively or on the field?
What I did know going into the job, right, is I've been in this conference a lot, and there's some little things that have begun to happen that kind of people don't take notice of. But a simple thing, we have a roster now of 118, right? That grew from, I believe, 105, 110, and it's really because I wanted to have a good pool of walk-on players, right? There had been some success stories at Illinois of walk-ons, but probably nothing to the premium that we're trying to add now, the value of those roster spots. Josh okayed and approved the addition of, we've now got customized helmets, right? It's the best helmet available, which was a huge cost factor, but he knew it was important, and a simple thing like that kind of changed a couple things in our equipment room, the shoulder pads, the way we equip our players. Then a huge thing, they moved up the transition in Memorial Stadium of the turf a couple of years, right? And that was a huge undertaking financially, also the scheduling. So there's all kinds of little things that Josh and I have, talked about early stages of it, and then as we've evolved after that 5-7 season, look at what we kind of needed to be successful, and it's been a huge work in progress.
You're going back to Wisconsin for
Yeah,
the first time.
I heard that.
Are you looking forward to it? What kind of
Yeah, because I've played in this conference, right, I've had a couple of these moments, right? I remember the first time I came back to Iowa as a coach, right, and I got a Tiger Hawk tattoo when I was 19. It was a hell of an idea back then, and so there's things that just familiarity-wise, right, like I think the most challenging thing in Camp Randall that day will be the guy across the sidelines. Paul Chris was my offensive coordinator for 6 years. So Bob Bostad is the offensive line coach. He worked for me the entire time. Several of my former players, Jimmy Leonard, the defense coordinator, was the first player I had a meeting with when I took the job at Wisconsin, because he was kind of the leader of defense. I was D coordinator, and we had an hour meeting that flew by and built a relationship that still exists today. So I know there will be a lot written about that day, but it's really about the two teams on the field. I'll try to do anything I can to minimize the stories about me returning there. But obviously, familiar faces. I got to see Coach a minute ago, and I spent 9 years there. It's a big part of my life and who I am today. So that will be special on that day.
Who's your starting quarterback?
Who's my starting quarterback? Whoever you want it to be right now. You know what? I knew that question was going to come. Right now, similar to kind of last year, I think you guys all probably thought BP was going to be the guy, but it really wasn't decided until game week. So the week of our game, I know our room will know, our team will know who the starter is, but until that point, unless someone separates themselves, I love the competition. I think the players enjoy the competition. As coaches, we'll definitely skew the reps as we get closer to what we think we're going to go to, but I don't know if we'll announce to you guys for sure on game week, but I know our team will know who our starting quarterback is a week out for sure.
Bret, you talked a lot about the growth. What's the biggest step forward you've seen your team make this offseason?
I think the understanding of what we're asking, right? Like, it's one thing, even today, when I was riding over yesterday with Isaiah, Chase, and Sid, a lot of times they would answer a question that I gave them with information I say a lot, right? Which they're regurgitating. You can teach anybody to say anything. It's but what they believe in, what they feel. And that's what I go back to. Like, I've been a head coach a long time now, right? And the thing I can feel about this team is they understand what we're saying, why we're saying it, what's expected of them. They're doing an incredible job of pushing each other. Like, sometimes tough love is best love, right? And some of our guys have really been hard on each other. The information I've gotten back from Tank and his crew around our players is how much they're challenging and pushing each other. And I think once you have that created, that's when something special can happen.